Welcome to how dangerous driving was actually harmed by Burnout Paradise Remastered. To give a brief synopsis on dangerous driving, in case y'all don't know what that is, well, if y'all know what Burnout 3 is, y'all know what dangerous driving essentially is. Dangerous driving is a new, kinda, version of Burnout 3, kind of. In a pretty loose definition. It's on the PS4. It just came out about a week ago, but it's it doesn't have a crash mode. It has not much better graphics than the original PS2 version of Burnout 3, and it's still like $25. This, and I'm doing it live, sort of like I did in the 10th anniversary review, is Burnout Paradise, specifically the remastered version. Also, all the stuff Burnout Paradise has, and then, well, I'll say this, I played Dangerous Driving, but on SharePlay, meaning I don't really have video of it. But I'll explain the stuff that Dangerous Driving doesn't have, because, well, I can't show something that a game doesn't have. So there's the excuse of why I'm not showing Dangerous Driving footage, because there's some of the stuff it doesn't have, so I can't show something that it doesn't have. It's not just me being lazy, not recording off the SharePlay. Yeah, so let's go with that. Honestly, though, it's sort of underwhelming to record. Burnout Paradise Remastered is the better game and more entertaining to record. Especially because this game, you can still sort of be productive and do crazy stuff one-handed. Because it's an open world. Which brings to sort of the first point of the main video being open world versus closed circuits. It seems like, in general, both Burnout Paradise and Burnout 3 had some very favorable reviews. But I think, overall, the majority of people like Burnout 3 better, including myself. Honestly, I haven't played Burnout 3 since... It might have honestly been over 10 years now. I think at some point I traded it in, because I can't even remember what I got. It was probably really my parents getting something, and they traded the game in, really, which is kind of annoying in the long run, because at that point I just figured, hey, Burnout Paradise just came out, so there's going to be tons and tons more games like this in the future, so Burnout 3 will be outdated, and Dangerous Driving is the first game to be close to Burnout 3. This is the other closest thing we get. It's not that much like Burnout 3, because where it's Paradise, it is open world. But here's some benefits of the open world. Yeah, you get Big Surf Island, which is a free DLC with the remaster, meaning you just download the game itself. I don't even know if Burnout Paradise Remastered has physical copies. I kind of don't think it does. Don't quote me on that, but I'd be willing to bet there's no such thing as a physical copy of Burnout Paradise Remastered. I don't know if that's the case for Dangerous Driving or not. But the point being that everything you see in Burnout Paradise Remastered is here at day one, and you get what you get. It also includes online. I ain't going to go too specifically. I'll just show sort of the menus and stuff. And then I'll do some more gameplay at the end, again one-handed. So it's nothing special, but it kind of serves a point, without even really explaining the point. Yeah, Dangerous Driving, sort of a arcadey smash 'em up game, doesn't have online. It's supposed to later, but I mean, I'll put it this way. I gave The Crew 2 extremely favorable reviews. I gave it between like an 8 and an 8.5, depending on which version I rated, like the full game or the beta and stuff like that. But I said that it had the potential to become a 10 out of 10 with online and essentially getting a summit and all that. Well, The Crew 2 is now getting a summit. It's happening, so in theory, I'd say there's a chance that the end game could be a 10 out of 10, just it's so late at this point. Yeah, I'm still going to play it, but the majority of people probably ain't. I guarantee the people who bought the game, a lot of them ain't going to come back at this point. And just in general, the sales of the game are probably lower than it could have been if it just came out 1 year later with everything in it. I feel like this is the perfect example for dangerous driving because, well, I mean, it's Burnout 3, but it doesn't have a crash mode. It's a PS4 game, but it doesn't have online. And it's non-licensed, so in theory it could have any cars ever, but... Well, here's where I'll go into these menus. An arcade game can essentially make whatever they want. There's no license. It's a smash 'em up game, so it makes sense there's no license. That's kind of sort of a good thing in the legal terms that you can put whatever cars in it. And Burnout Paradise took darn good advantage of this. Like, look at all this crazy stuff. There's toy cars, which are just miniature versions of all the other cars, and then the ones that have horns have, like, really squeaky horns and stuff like that. And you can have toy versions of pretty much all the cars in the game. Like, there's trucks, there's SUVs, there's just normal cars, there's cop cars, there's... The legendary cars, which I'll get into next, is, like, essentially their version for movies and stuff. Like, there's the Back to the Future car, that's hover car. Y'all know the rest. There's the generic Lee. There's the Kit car. There's a lot of them. And it kind of goes into another point, too, between Burnout Paradise and Dangerous Driving. Remastered, specifically. BPR, Burnout Paradise Remastered, has everything unlocked from the beginning in terms of all... Actually, not... It's this. Not this and not this. Not the bottom. I thought I would go to the bottom. But not the Paradise cars, not the Big Surf Island cars. There's some of them, but not all of them at the beginning. But the rest has all of them. Meaning there's still point in playing game, but you can, for the more casual players, it's already dropped some crazy stuff at the beginning. So that way you can still enjoy yourself and compete online and such with good cars without having to go through the entire offline if that's what you prefer. But, well, again, Dangerous Driving doesn't have online, and even if it did, you still have to unlock stuff throughout the game, because there's just so little stuff in general to the game. I only played Share Play for about an hour or so, and it was... I'll say this, the game is fun, and it's a budget game, which kind of goes back to the previous review that I did, being NASCAR Heat 3. NASCAR Heat games obviously don't have the budget of the old EA games, so therefore I gave NASCAR Heat 3 ultimately a okay review. It's not the best game in the world. Probably all in all better to just play the old EA NASCAR games. Exactly the same with Dangerous Driving versus Burnout 3, but the problem with Dangerous Driving compared to NASCAR Heat 3 is NASCAR Heat 3 is the only one. Like, it's the only NASCAR game out currently. But Dangerous Driving has competitors, meaning, well, this game, Burnout Paradise Remastered, still has online. And, well, for Jiminy Cricket's sakes, it's a whole heck of a heap better. And yeah, I haven't unlocked everything in this game yet. Criticize me if you want, but I've gotten decently far. This is probably, what, about 3/4 through the game so far? So I'll just drive something that's already unlocked, then generically. And, yeah, I mean, Burnout Paradise Remastered is just better in so many ways. It's pretty much more than I can even talk about in one somewhat short video. So, things, though, that I will admit Dangerous Driving does better than Burnout Paradise is it has a new feature that I honestly haven't really seen in any game that I can think of. That the wrecked cars, from taking them down, which is in a lot of games, it's just taking down cars in general, the wrecks stay around, meaning you can hit those the first time, and then you have to remember where they are the second time. That's cool. That's a legitimate new feature that if the game was actually had all the stuff relatively equal to Burnout 3 and the rest, it would be a truly, really worthy successor, because it has that new of a feature that's pretty game-altering. So even though it's essentially the same game, it has a new enough mechanic to it to make it feel unique, but still harken back to the days of old. But, I mean, that's kind of the only main super really good feature compared to the rest. Meaning Burnout 3 and Burnout Paradise Remastered. And I'll say this too, I'm not saying that Dangerous Driving is completely not worth buying whatsoever. It's already a cheaper game to begin with. I think it's like 25, 35, something like that dollars. One thing weird in general is I've seen the price change some. Like I swear at one point I saw it at like $25 and then later I saw it like at 35 or something. I don't know why the price would go up after the game releases unless it's actually selling pretty good. Which leads me to sort of nearing my final point being, all in all, this is the main reason that I think Burnout Paradise Remastered has hurt Dangerous Driving, because it's sort of all in all the most important. Obviously gameplay and all that's important once you get the game. And obviously graphics are important too. It's just straight up, you're looking at it. Burnout Paradise Remastered, which again is essentially a 2008 game, just with a coat of paint on it. Looks better than the fully built from scratch 2019 game. Yeah, that's kind of sad, but it's the saddest part all in all. Unless they just barely put any money into it, which it's pretty obvious they didn't put tons of money into it, but I don't know if it'll truly ever be announced a budget for the game, because it's only 7 people working on it. Unless Dangerous Driving had almost no budget to it whatsoever, which I kind of don't think it had literally no budget. That's it. Now, obviously not a AAA game. I don't think it was the cheapest game built either. I really don't think there's going to be another Dangerous Driving, Dangerous Golf, Dangerous Danger Zone, all those versions of games, really, because I think this was all they were building up to, essentially, and then if this did good, there'd be more later. But between it just not being the best game in general, and there being, well, Burnout Paradise Remastered, so if online and released barely over a year before, I just don't think the game is going to make it. Which I'm all for buying, like, more indie-type games and having them succeed and such. Helping them, if you buy the game, then maybe they will make it, but here's an example that I've reviewed from even its demo, and then ended up getting the full game later. Onrush. Onrush, I said initially in the demo, hey, this is a spiritual successor, sorta kinda, to MotorStorm, and then it kinda has aspects of Burnout in it. And it actually came out a little bit before Burnout Paradise Remastered. So, hey, this could be a whole new thing, a combination of MotorStorm and Burnout. That sounds awesome, doesn't it? Well, it was the most basic combination there was. It's in the most simple aspects version of Burnout and MotorStorm, but I've already reviewed the game, so I'm not going to go into specifics. But essentially, I was right. Onrush failed so miserably, it was literally free on PlayStation Network not even a year after the game came out. Meaning, I didn't get the game because I just honestly didn't think it was going to succeed. I'm all for funding good indie games and stuff to help the company succeed, but if you really truly don't think the company is going to succeed in the first place, there's no point in buying the game full price, because, well, if the company fails, you're essentially just giving money for nothing in return overall. Obviously, yeah, duh, you get the game in return, but no long-term investment. So sadly, I think this is my prediction for Dangerous Driving. Would it have made it if Burnout Paradise Remastered was never made or released after, or blah blah blah? I don't even really know about that, because obviously I think the main point of the whole Burnout-esque series coming back to Criterion, people working on Burnout-esque games like Danger Zone, Danger Zone 2, Dangerous Driving, was that people wanted the Burnout game to come back. Then Burnout Paradise Remastered came back and everybody loved it. I don't think it sold tons and tons of copies, but it got good reception, and we obviously didn't expect it to sell tons of copies because it's a remaster, not a new thing. Supposedly, though, Dangerous Driving is supposed to be the new thing, this sort of a harken back to old times. it's not. There's only one minor new mechanic about it, and a harken back to old times, it's well worse than the old times. So, I believe Onrush failed just because it was an extremely simplistic version of what it was going for. I think Dangerous Driving is going to fail because it's not all that simplistic. It has a lot of the same features as the original game, and even occasional new thing. It's just a low quality version of all the same things. While Burnout Paradise Remastered is, well, the Burnout Paradise quality of stuff, just with new coat of paint on it, with all some, or not all, but a lot of crazy stuff unlocked from the beginning, so it still is nice for the casual players and the people who like to grind alike. There's really not much replayability whatsoever, whether casual or grinding, for Dangerous Driving at the start, because there's no online. And supposedly, even the single-player campaign is pretty short. Obviously, I haven't played it all. I barely played any of the server play. But supposedly, it's only about 3 or 4 hours of gameplay. The online game, short single-player, plus low-quality game in general. And there's just a better version out right now that has online, equals, I really don't think Dangerous Driving is going to make it. Kind of sad to say, essentially I expected Burnout 3 Remastered, really. I expected essentially the same quality as Burnout Paradise Remastered was, to an extent, and I was going to be perfectly fine if there were some little features messed up here and there, because obviously it's not the Burnout name brand, so some of the miscellaneous exact things they can't get, but a lot of the little nostalgic details they did perfect. They got the little jingles for when you're like doing the starting up races and all that. They got the racking up takedowns and points and nitro and all that correct, and they got the little nostalgic details down in terms of the sound, but the gameplay is not there. So overall, I would say Dangerous Driving, I don't know if it would ever become truly free, because I think the only reason Onrush became completely free is I think the developer just kind of gave up. They're not really coming back. I don't know if they're officially out of business or whatever, but maybe they just closed their doors before they went completely bankrupt. So this game was free because they didn't care anymore, blah, blah, blah. But Dangerous blah, blah, blah series has been around for a bit. They've had 3 games at this point, Danger Zone 1, 2, and then Dangerous Driving. So in theory, they're going to want to stay around, so they're probably going to keep this game up for a price. Probably forever. So I really don't think it'll ever be free, so if you're factoring that in, it may not ever be worth buying, but I'd say all in all, Dangerous Driving is worth maybe $10 or less. If you had Burnout 3, I'd just play Burnout 3, just like with NASCAR Heat 3. If you have NASCAR, any EA game on the PS2 era, or NASCAR the game 2003, especially the one with the crazy mods, I would say play that. But I'd still say ultimately get NASCAR Heat 3 if you're a NASCAR fan, because, well, it has online, and it's the only one. There's a lot of options out there for Dangerous Driving competitors, and yeah. Competition is a darn good thing, because, yeah, some games get thrown under the rug, like Dangerous Driving, which I really wanted to succeed, but, I mean, so what? It didn't. Eventually, in like 26 years, consoles are going to get Wreckfest. And a lot of people who've already played that game, you lucky PC Master Race people, a lot of them just say that's just a better, more simulation, crazy version of Burnout. Obviously, I've never played it, so I can't judge it. But maybe that's the true successor Burnout we've all been waiting for, and it is a truly new thing. It doesn't even have to harken back to old times with cliché little jingles and sound effects and stuff. It's completely its own new thing, but just with the classic looking crasses and stuff we've all been liking, done in like 4K and high resolution and actually pretty. The best competition is probably yet to even be released, but there's competition that was released essentially 10 years ago that's just been redone. That's better. So overall, that's my opinion of Dangerous Driving. Again, I don't have the most playtime in it, but I don't think there's much point in putting tons of playtime into it, honestly. There's not tons of events either. There's race, there's time trial, there's takedown, there's elimination. There's no miscellaneous challenges online or offline. There's no crash mode. People complain about Burnout Paradise Remastered or regular game, same crash mode on both. Saying it's not like Burnout 3 did, but at least it's something and not nothing. Now granted, there is Danger Zone 1 and 2 that is completely the crash mode. But even that, I feel like, would make more of a reason to buy Burnout. Or not even. Dangerous Driving, not Burnout. Because at least the Dangerous Driving crash mode in Danger Zone 1 and 2 is somewhat different than Burnout 3. It's not very well done either, but at least that's more unique than Dangerous Driving is to Burnout 3. If they paired those two together and sold the game maybe for $5 more, I would get it. It wouldn't be the best game in the world, but I consider it at least worth buying for the price they're selling it for. I consider $25 for the base racing game without the crash mode. I paid $30 with even just Danger Zone 2 itself included. But no. Could Dangerous Driving get better? Supposedly yes. Supposedly there's DLC and all that coming. If eventually DLC is a crash mode, then yeah, I may re-review the game and say how wonderful it is, but if the game fails to begin with and just has so few sales for it to be worth putting more content in the game, then, well, that's game over, I'd say. The company might not come back from it again, unless there was a so little budget in the game to begin with. So, that's what we're waiting on. The future is yet to be seen, but as of now, I don't see there being much future. I know that sounds kind of corny and cliched, but that's essentially just what Dangerous Driving is. Kind of corny and cliched and just going off people's nostalgia with not the best product. Again, only 7 people worked on the game, but with so much other AAA competitors out there, at this point even EA is winning. That's something, folks. That's something. People have different opinions on EA and all that, but at this point, the EA game is won. Is that worth yeehaw? Y'all can be the judges of that. EA has the better product. Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of that. Y'all can judge if that's worth yeehaw or not. EA has the better product.